This is Robert Clinkybeard and David Anderson with the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing business content from accomplished leaders to bring you value, scale your business, and better yourself personally. We hope you really enjoy the show, and I encourage you to share with your network so they can subscribe and we can expand these messages globally. We are also super excited to be supported by two brilliant sponsors. If you're tired of measuring properties, Site Recon platform fully automates measurements so you can focus on sales. So think measurements, think Site Recon. The other sponsor is Company Cam, who make it dead simple to communicate, document, and problem solve with guys in the field, no matter where you are. Company Cam brings documentation, communication, and liability protection together in one simple, easy to use app for you and your entire team. Company Cam is the only app every landscaper needs. Check it out. Hi, this is Robert Clinkybeard with the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. I'm super excited to be joined today by Will Fidler. Will is the president and CEO of RGA Enterprises. So Will, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Robert.
So really excited, and you know, one of the things we were just talking off camera a couple of minutes ago is you know, some of the changes you've gone through. But before we jump into that, just tell me a little bit more about your background, your business experience, and how you got into this role.
Sure. So my background is it's not super pedigreed or anything like that, but it's one of recognizing opportunity and jumping on it. So I started off my career in chemical distribution, actually, and I worked for the largest chemical distributor in the world by the name of Brenntag. And the way Brenntag is organized is they have Brenntag North America, which is made up of regional operating companies, or ROCs. So they have Brenntag Mid-South, Brenntag Northeast, they used to have Brenntag Southeast, Midwest, Great Lakes, so on and so forth. So I came to work for what was at the time Brenntag Southeast in Charlotte. I knew that they had a job opening in the Carolinas, and I'd always really loved the North and South Carolina area. So I applied for a job down here and began my career in full line distribution. So I managed a group of customers and was given a company car and the keys and a book of business. Good luck. But so whenever I did that, one of my largest customers was RGA, and I developed a really close relationship with the family. And was a party to them growing the business, and you know, it grew my business in return for the chemical side of things. And eventually I moved to another subsidiary of Brenntag North America called Brenntag Global Marketing. I was traveling up and down the East Coast, working with the regional operating companies to hone in their strategy to move one of the largest commodities that Brenntag sells, called caustic soda, also known as sodium hydroxide.
Yep.
So we managed deep water terminals up and down the East Coast, barge terminals and some of the inland waterways, rail car terminals, and worked with the regional presidents, vice presidents, and sales reps to call on large accounts and move product through the regional operating companies. But through that time, I developed I maintained a really good relationship with RGA, and my dad was actually the CEO of Brenntag North America and on the management board for Brenntag AG, which is the German-based global headquarters. And he was a part of the kind of the growth story of Brenntag for 45 years prior to that. And as they grew through consolidation and involvement with private equity, you know, it presented a tremendous opportunity for him, and he got to be a part of that, and then going public and all of those sort of things. And so he retired, and I approached him and said, you know, hey, I really have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I want to do something entrepreneurial. The same opportunity that existed in Brenntag for you really does not exist for me anymore.
Right.
It's already grown. It's consolidated. It's gone public. It'd be a great career, and you know, I have no doubt I could do well here. But it's, you know, I'd like to do something entrepreneurial. So we decided we wanted to do something together. And right around that time, I had taken one of the family members from the family who owned RGA to play golf. And
Okay.
over a couple of cocktails, we learned that they were selling the business.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was June of 2016. We went under letter of intent relatively soon thereafter. And by December, we had closed on the acquisition.
Wow. Congrats.
Thank you. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's the background.
So, you've obviously now been in that for what, roughly 5 years, if my math's right. But it's probably been an interesting transition from you from going from working for some big companies to then now, managing your own company. And obviously, your dad's probably there to help you a little bit. But tell me about some of the, I suppose, the experiences or learnings along the way that transition is given to you.
Sure, it's been it's been a fun ride. It's not been without its challenges, certainly. But one of the biggest differences is that you don't necessarily realize all of the support functions that go on in a large organization that smaller organizations just don't have. So, in addition to being the president or CEO, a lot of times, the chief marketing officer or the chief human resources officer,
Right.
that's probably the biggest one. Is it's the people management, and to be able to compete as a small company, you have to make sure you're investing in your people. And that's not just with financial resources, that's with time as well, and helping career plan and showing them what's next within a small organization. That can be challenging. But um, so yeah, it's a lot of interesting events. We moved. That was quite a
Yeah.
quite an undertaking.
Never quite goes as you think, in your head. So
Right, right. We moved from a 60,000 square foot facility into a 185,000 square foot facility. We had
wow.
8 production lines and 20 chemical blending tanks. We moved in 1 week and only lost 5 days of production.
Wow, that's impressive.
It was I don't know how we did it, but the team did a great job. Didn't involve a whole lot of sleep, but we did it. So that was a big undertaking. And then, a lot of other things have happened in those years. We made a subsequent acquisition shortly after, which we then consolidated back to Charlotte, sold some of the equipment and moved it here along with the book of business. And then last year happened, which was, a different roller coaster all on its own right.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I mean, I do want to touch on the acquisition piece, both you buying and then obviously, uh, buying a company, but also acquiring another company. But so we'll get to that in a minute. But obviously, I think again off camera we talked about how you had some challenges with just seeing that highs and lows in terms of COVID and adjusting to that. I think nimble or adapting to change was definitely overused over the last 18 months, but you've been living it. So I'd love to hear how you've seen that, adapted to it, communicated that with your employees. You mentioned that earlier, the communication part. So yeah, tell me about that.
Sure. Well, so any type of dramatic change in a manufacturing environment is incredibly difficult to deal with, whether it's a dramatic increase in demand or a dramatic reduction in demand. Typically, manufacturing environments enjoy steady and slow growth. Most of the time, it's a lot healthier that way. But overnight last year, and I remember the weekend. My wife and my kids and I, we were on vacation, and we left, and everything was kind of, oh well, there's a potential COVID or coronavirus, or I think that's how we referred to it back then, the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll blow over. But the Sunday evening that we returned, and I think the next day, President Trump got on, and it's 14 days to slow the spread, or 21 days or whatever it was. It was okay. This is very real. And then our phones started ringing off the hook. And I would say the demand for our products increased by about 200%.
Wow.
So we immediately expanded our first shift to include 50 hours a week, and we implemented a second shift. And that was extremely challenging, and not only that, but the management team and some of the mid-level managers, now all of a sudden we're experiencing a tremendous amount of stress, rapid change in product mix, volumes, warehousing requirements, number of trucks in and out every single day. So the most important thing through that process was communication, finding out who your A players are, and really over communicating with them, leaning on them to do what they're good at, and which is usually leading others, right, and rallying others too. So getting some of those mid-level managers, giving them the autonomy and the authority to do as they see fit, and trusting them and relying on them, I think that's very critical in any kind of change that you have. And then as COVID went on, it evolved, right? And then when the vaccine rolled out, we saw an almost equal change in the other direction. So it was kind of a bubble that popped, so to speak. I do believe that long-term, the demand for cleaning products will be much greater than it was before the pandemic. However, right now we're in an oversupply situation in the marketplace. You can go on your local grocery shelves and you see a lot of disinfectants and cleaning products, and that's a product that retailers are still working off from last year.
Right.
So, and that again, it's relying on your A players, over communicating, talking about what the plan is, how we're adapting. I know you're a scaling up fanatic, and I've tried to adopt some of those principles as well. We have weekly sort of brain trust meeting where a lot of the managers are getting together, mixed with a little bit of EOS in there as well, or
both good
quarterly rocks
products.
Yep. Relying on those fundamentals, it gives people a sort of a compass, right, and at least a place to call home. Because when things are changing rapidly around you, someone can at least say, all right, these are my rocks. This is how it's contributing to our quarterly initiatives and goals. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to help the company, and we're all moving in the right direction.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. If think having those, I call it the roadmap. If you have that sort of roadmap in place and you're communicating that and you're getting people aligned behind the direction of the company, yeah, you can still adapt to the needs of of your clients, your customers. But I think that communication and that alignment is key for success. So nice job there.
Thanks. And I think a lot of people, when things change rapidly, I don't know if it's human nature or just a comfort zone thing, but a lot of people almost want to, hide from it, whether it's good news or bad news. And I think in a moment of change, you've really got to push through that, and you've got to be present. You've got to be visible. You've got to be vocal. And if you do that, it's going to give people, not only do you give them a roadmap, but you're also providing a sense of what's the reality. So we're going to define the reality. We're going to set some goals out into the future. Here's the roadmap to get there. And here's some comfort, because I'm here. I'm right here with you. We're talking through it and communicating about the present and the near future.
Yep. And I think it's almost especially important in the workplace, because with either social media, through the news, they obviously tend to stir things up. It gets people just in a bad phase of their life. So just to have that stability and have that roadmap in a stable environment at work, I think definitely helps to calm people down. So I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, thanks.
So and then where are you at these days? I mean, are you seeing a bit more stability? Are you still seeing that demand still there? How are you? Because that's one of the toughest parts for leaders. I mean, there's all these different books on leadership, but the reality is that a lot of the time you're learning as you're in that leadership role, and you're trying to really guide your team, and they're trusting in you to guide them through all these challenges. So how are you doing that these days?
Well, there are no shortage shortage of challenges in today's world. Whether what we're facing right now is shifts in demand, transportation and logistics, product availability, supply chain, inflationary pressure on pricing, and that it creates competitive challenges. Staffing, so there's a huge labor shortage, and the cost of labor is rising dramatically, and
It's crazy.
yeah, it really is. So there's certainly no shortages of headwinds, but um, some of a portion of our business, and this is what I would call the everyday living products. So the products that you're using at home, whether there's a virus or a pandemic or not, that the demand for those products are still very strong. A lot of the workplace has not gone back to the office yet. Workforce has not gone back to the office yet. A lot of big employers are now saying, we're going to stay home through next summer or next spring or whatever it may be. So people are doing their laundry, people are cleaning their floors, whether there's a pandemic or not.
Right.
Some of the COVID killing disinfectants that people may have panic purchased last year, it seems they still have those products underneath their kitchen sinks. And that's, we didn't really get in a whole lot about what RGA does, but that's what we do. We manufacture household cleaning products for national brands.
Okay.
But so yeah, the demand for that has slowed down. So now we're sort of pivoting into different markets, and there's still a shortage of capacity for certain products. Our category as a whole and industry it's still going to be experiencing growth, but there's always and not always, but even more so now, I guess there's uncertainty about the mid to near future. But
yeah, that's true.
So
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we continue to find ways to adapt. Not only now are we putting liquid in the bottles, but we're also further processing for retail sales. So
Cool.
We're doing display pallets and kits for, like, when you walk into a Lowe's or a Home Depot or some of the DIY stores, and you walk in, you see a pallet and it's got all the cardboard and it's all folded, and you can just grab a bottle out of there and go. We've started to offer that as a service that we provide now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to circle back to something you mentioned at the beginning, where you also came in and you bought out the previous owners for RGA. What was that like for you in terms of what did you learn? If you were to, if that was to happen again, or if somebody else in my audience were thinking about buying a company, because I think that's happening more and more these days, is cheaper money. A lot of business owners are tired with COVID and the previous recession, and there's a lot of acquisitions going on right now, or selling. So talk through that experience and what you learned from it, and what you would do differently next time.
That's a great question. There are so many things that happened in such a short period of time. Going back, I think one of the things I would have done differently is taken a little longer to really get our arms wrapped around the entirety of the business before doing some of the major growth initiatives that we had, like the subsequent acquisition shortly after, especially when it's what I'll call a platform purchase, right? So this wasn't an add-on acquisition to another operating company where you already have resources that you can tap into. This was an acquisition of a platform company, right, that we bought and intended to grow and have grown. But so probably would have spent a little bit more time learning some of the intricacies and complexities of the industry and the business before making that subsequent acquisition and moving into 185,000 square foot warehouse.
Right.
And actually, I still would have done that, but the subsequent acquisition, it could have waited, and it that would have been one thing. It's just slowing down a little bit, understanding the environment before doing something that dramatic.
And what was your reason to do that? Just to increase market share, revenues, or just the opportunity, came on your plate? What was the reason for doing that?
It was an opportunistic acquisition. It was a company that was experiencing some challenges and really had one good customer that we wanted in a product line, and it was a geographical expansion as well. But there was a lot more there than met the eye. It was kind of a rushed acquisition, and shortly after we bought it, and when I say shortly, within a few hours, they lost the largest customer.
Oh,
So that was a punch in the gut, and I like to look back on it and think that we still made the most of the opportunity, and overall it did strengthen us as a company. We picked up a lot of really nice equipment. We got into new product lines, got new relationships, and ultimately, I do believe we made the most of the situation. The first
cool.
year and a half was very, very difficult, though.
Yeah, I'm sure. What again, for our listeners, what would you have done differently in that scenario? Especially, losing that big customer is pretty challenging. So what would you have done in terms of either due diligence or other work?
I think it's a classic case of not every opportunity is an opportunity worth pursuing, and probably had faith that we are a good company. We are attractive to different sellers as buyers for a number of reasons, and there will be other equal or better opportunities that will come along, and we'll be in a position to execute on those and transact, and it will be good. But it's kind of like the old kind of cliche that it's about sometimes it's about choosing what you don't do versus choosing what you do, and we should have exercised a little bit more discipline in that regard.
Now, you mentioned, you use a little bit of scaling up, a little bit of EOS, and part of that is just developing either your VTO or your one-page plan, and on that you have what your growth plans look like, 1, 3, 5, 10 years time. I mean, you feel as though you've got some good clarity ahead of you in terms of what that growth looks like, especially going through what you've done in terms of acquisitions.
I would say over the last year and a half, our view into the future has been reduced pretty dramatically because again, it comes down to being nimble and agile. And right now we're looking at the next 3 months. 2 years ago, before the pandemic, we were looking at 3 and 5 years out. We have put together some kind of medium-term goals in terms of top-line revenue and projects and capabilities, and but there's been again so much change. It's kind of somebody shook up the barrel of monkeys, and the chips have sort of fallen in different directions. So right now we're focusing on the next 3 months.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of similar trends in other companies. Couple of last questions here before we finish up. What type of information or market data do you look at to really help with those 3-6 months coming up? Because you must have that outlook in the market.
Sure. One of the quickest market indicators that we have is going and doing store checks. So we'll just walk into a grocery store or a dollar store or a Walmart and look at their shelves and see what kind of activity is going on. What are people buying? What is full on the shelves? Talking to the stocking folks there, and so, well, I just put that out, but that's been flying off the shelf, and that's really good. Those are early indicators as to what's happening in the marketplace. We also receive some just general market reports on a weekly basis, talking about what's happening in the household cleaning category. and the 13-week change and 4-week change, rate of change, some of those things as well. And talking to the customers, what are they seeing? What are they hearing? What are they gearing up for? So just, it's a lot of little different places that we have to look to get a full, complete picture of what's happening in the market.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a final question, for, again, either the person who's thinking about jumping into an acquisition or maybe they just recently bought a business or started a business, what would be your biggest advice to them?
I think, again, it comes down to people. Figure out who your A players are, play to their strengths, and put them in a position to win. Because ultimately, as the leader or a leader, you can't do everything. And you have to have other people that you can trust to execute, to communicate, and to help you carry out your vision for your company.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, really appreciate your time today. You've got some great messages there. I'm really happy that you're, doing well. You're leading the company well, and I look forward to every success for you.
Thank you, Robert. It's been good chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and we've got some great takeaways for your business and your personal life. This is Robert Clinkenbeard along with David Anderson, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us on our journey. 2 quick things before you go, listeners. Check out our website, thecommerciallandscaper.com. You can subscribe, you can share with your friends, but more importantly, check out our sponsors. We have Site Recon, who are going to help to capture measurements on your property and create a really streamlined process. And we have Company Cam, who make it dead simple to communicate, document, and problem solve with guys in the field, no matter where you are. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.